Do I see that you've been driving Lambos?
No, BMWs.
Oh, sure. And
I drove a Lambo a couple of years ago. Yeah, at Bathurst 12. I think actually 2 years in a row.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but they're race cars. You know, they're not like the comfort of your road car where you've got everything inside that.
Oh, of course.
Luxurious, but go good.
Yeah, I imagine. Would you, out of interest, Ferrari or Lambo?
Probably Lambo, because they're just a little bit different. You know,
right.
Different thing. Yeah.
Put that. It looks a little bit uncomfortable for you, but do whatever you need to. Literally, you can't. Yeah.
Somewhere there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have it. I have it like this. You know, sort of blocks your view. You happy with sound there, Andy?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, they're neither of them really road cars, are they?
No, that's right. To be honest, I guess I get to drive lots of cool cars and race them. So to be honest, the best road car you can have is the most comfortable one that's
no doubt.
Practical for everything, but still, if you give it a bit of throttle, it goes well.
Yeah, exactly. Now, is your phone off?
Yes, it is. Oh, it's silent.
Will it won't vibrate?
No.
Ripper. Andy, you're off, no doubt. You've listened to the show, so you know what it's about, and audience are people like you, really. You know, I reckon about 30 to 40 minutes if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you see me do that, it just means come back to the mic.
Okay.
You might lean back, or you might
sure.
think you're talking to Andy or whatever. But all good.
No worries.
And Steve, I will have done an intro. I would have gone through, you know, who you are, what you do, why you're here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can get straight into it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, buddy. Well, I'm ready to go. So welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show.
Thanks, mate.
It's a pretty impressive CV, Steve.
Oh, look, I guess, you know, when you're a young bloke starting out, you dream of doing big things in the sport that you enjoy, and over time you just sort of get a few runs on the board. No, I guess
few runs. 4 Bathursts later, and however many other trophies. Be a big pool room, wouldn't it?
It's not too bad. There's always plenty of good stuff to reflect on, but. Now it's funny because you say that, but through my career, some of the best results haven't necessarily been the ones where you've got the trophy. You know, the ones where you really ground it out and fought hard, and at the end of the day, you've got a sense of achievement from that hard effort and work that you've put through. So. But been pretty lucky.
That's interesting because, I mean, obviously we're here to talk business and marketing, and I'm really interested to see what we us citizens, small business land here, can learn from a race car driver that has achieved so much. So that's interesting. You know, it's not always about the trophy, right? It's sometimes the journey is important. It sounds cliche.
I think, to be honest, I think it's more about the journey. To be honest, I think the trophy is just the small little bit that you get at the end of it that probably just gratifies what you've done, but you know, the self gratification is the process that's enabled you to get to that point.
I wonder what a small business owner listening thinks like of that, where the trophy's the sale, getting the client for life, but hey mate, the journey's enjoy the journey. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think, you know, to collect more trophies, you need to put in that groundwork in the beginning. It's no different really, is it? We're talking the same sort of thing.
Through that CV, at what point did you become a business owner?
Yeah, it's look, I spent 16 years, in the lead up to that, I spent my time trying to get to that point, and then spent 16 years in the Australian Supercars Championship. And then post Supercars, and to be honest, I was a little bit fractured and burnt by the last two years of doing that. And my wife and I were sitting down talking about, and there were some options to go car racing and form our own team and do some things with some commercial backers that were willing to do that. But then, you know, there was the option to step out and go and do something else, and we went a long way down the road of a fast food franchise to the point where we'd gone into Crown Metropole in town and literally had all the documents in our hands to sign up and go down that path. So thankfully, I think at this stage we chose the right thing. We stuck at motor racing and knew the core of what we really knew, and probably weren't that attracted to 7-day-a-week food retail.
Really? We can reveal you were going to become a KFC franchisee.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Tell us about that. So I think it's like 2010, 2011. You have had an incredible racing career. We've gone through the CV. I won't embarrass you again. But that's an incredible change. You're completely over the racing industry.
Yeah, look, the 2 last years in the Supercars Championship had been disappointing from a results perspective, but
you're a bit sad with yourself, were you?
No. Look, just not being able to enable change to help my situation, and that was from many reasons, and you move on from that sort of stuff and you learn from it and become a bigger person from it.
But you must have had a bad taste in your mouth.
I did, absolutely I did. Yep, there was no doubt about the situation that I was in. I felt, and I was looking to continue in the Supercars Championship as a driver. But really there was a bit of a time of change in that period too for the industry, in that the GFC had only recently happened and there was a lot more commercial realities from young drivers that had sponsorship that were bringing to the team in order to support these big operations. I mean, a V8 Supercars team can have 50 to 60 people in it, so there's a few mouths to feed on the
Was there anything in particular that made you think, you know what, I'm going to go and run a KFC?
Look, just the situation that I was in at the time, and not being able to make some changes that would help change my performance, and that was because of the internal structure of the team. I mean, I was essentially a contractor providing my services to that team. I wasn't employed by the team. So anyway, we were.
So you've gone KFC. You've thought, okay, well, a franchise, as many do, looks very appealing.
Yes.
You've agreed. You and your.
I like chicken.
I love fried chicken. Hey, ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
I think they use chicken salt at KFC too, so more boxes to be ticked. And what your wife's name is?
Angela.
You and Angela have agreed we're going to get a KFC franchise. The documents are prepared. Mm-hmm. You are hopping in the car. It's hours out of you driving down to Crown Casino in Melbourne.
Yep.
What happened?
Well, we came out of the meeting a bit overwhelmed and a bit.
So you went to the meeting?
Yeah, we were at the meeting.
You're minutes away.
We'd done the meeting. We'd received the documentation, and it was basically here you go. Here's the stuff. Have a look through it, and get back to us within the next couple of days. Get your solicitor, have a look through some things, and do all that. And we were driving home, and it was dark. It was night time. The meeting was at sort of 8 o'clock at night, and we're driving home, and we both looked at each other in the pile of paperwork we had, and I think one of us just said, "What are we doing? We know nothing about this. I'm sure we're smart enough to be able to learn, but we've got kids that at that point in time were 10 and 11, and we were looking to probably move away from that being that sort of busy and starting up a business at that time, when we were in our late 30s, and going down that path. I mean, I just thought, maybe we should just, should we stick to what we know? We know the game of the motor racing and the industry. We've got some great connections, some great opportunities there. Let's give it another shot.
Because I mean, that's like saying to the bride's father, "I thought we were going to call this one off." Gutsy. Obviously, there was some stuff to consider. Losing face. Probably, I don't know, any legalities, whatever. But you didn't regret it.
No, not at all. And so from that moment on, we put our heads down and we went back to the people that were going to support us. And in the side to that is that as coming out of the Supercars Racing Championship as a full-time driver meant that for the 3 endurance event at Sandown, Bathurst and the Gold Coast, as a driver you'd be in high demand. So there was the opportunity there to still have some good driving in the supercars, but then look at what other opportunities within the motorsport game could be exposed. And I'd already done a little bit of research on the Porsche Carrera Cup Championship, and that's a well supported one. It's probably the fastest single make championship in the world. It's held in 9 different countries, and we thought that was a good way to step back out of professional driving into professional team ownership.
So this is you and Angela going, okay, there's a business to be had in motorsport.
Yep.
You identified the Porsche Cup as the place to do it. And is that when Steve Richards Motor Racing is launched? Is that the business?
Essentially, Steve Richards Motorsport as a business was launched.
Sorry to interrupt, but Steve Richards Racing is a horse guy. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's right.
Every time I bloody Googled you, it's like, this horse guy comes up. We need to fix that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you...
Yeah, so that company was formed back in 1999 when I'd actually been over in the UK doing some racing, and we came back, and then I got a drive with a team, so we formed that company. But that was really as a personal services / contracting for my services as a driver, not as an operation that actually performed motor racing services. So Steve Richards Motorsport then became a motor racing services business that provided service not only to us but to other potential customers that wanted to have a solution. I mean, not everyone wants to go and buy the big racing transporter and doesn't want to spend their weekdays working on their cars. They want to have someone that can do that for them, and someone that's experienced and has some runs on the board. So
then have you just become a driver?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So that's your foray into small business, Steve. Big change, because essentially, I mean, you might have heard me talk as a listener, past listener of this show. I talk about the cubicle escapee. Those people who are in corporate, working for the man, dying to start their own business. Not dissimilar to you. You're sort of, hardly trapped in a racing car, but you're an employee.
Yes.
And you're going like, I need to do something else. I need to run my own show. I need to take control.
Yep, that's absolutely spot on. And there's not too many. There are a few teams out there that do a similar sort of thing that we do, but there's not too many out there that have taken it on. A lot of the supercars drivers, when they're finished driving competitively, they move on to other things outside the industry. So I think it's just like anything though, Tim. You're just out there looking for opportunities, and if you're willing to scratch around and work hard, you can find them. And we were very fortunate in a couple of cases of meeting the guys at Laser Plumbing Electrical.
Yes.
That was a significant moment for us, and we're still working together today.
So just tell us about that, Steve. Kyle, being a past guest of the show, in fact introduced us.
Yes.
He found you in the early days. Was he kind of almost one of those? What do they call them? Angel investors, or someone who just come along, saw some potential?
We had a group of people that were involved in the first year, and you've got to remember that Steve Richards Motorsport in 2011 was me and Ange, and having a background as an aircraft mechanic back, while I was building a career as a hobby in motor racing, I had the hands-on tools to be able to work on my cars. So Steve Richards Motorsport Porsche Carrera Cup in 2011 was me preparing the car in the workshop, driving the car to the track, and then getting some contractors involved on the race weekends to help the preparation of the car while I was out there driving. So that it gave me some space in my mind to do it. So
that's a micro business.
Yeah, and then that evolved into what we have now, which is associations with fantastic corporate partners in BMW and BP and Laser Plumbing Electrical, and that continues. But the initial meeting with Steve was through some of our connections that actually a guy called Chris Pesamenti who was doing some business coaching. Yeah, and he was doing some business coaching for some of the Laser franchise members, and gave me an introduction to Steve. And then Steve and I had a chat. Steve wasn't a motor racing guy at all, but he could see some synergies in the model that we were trying to create, and how he could adapt it for the business that was Laser Plumbing Electrical.
Wow, we all need a Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
We do. I mean, what form that comes in, I just remember years ago when I was in corporate, desperately trying to get out and not knowing how to do that and start my own business, because I have no business owners in my family tree. I've checked it out. They're all employees. My Steve was more, I ended up getting a contract for 6 months with Smorgon Steel, and it was almost like a slippery slope out of corporate. Once that contract's over, I had to start my own business. But what happened is Smorgon Steel said, listen, your contract's up, but we'll go and start your own business and we'll be your first client. Fantastic. And that was my Steve.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
they are blessings to have that kind of that backing or support or belief.
Look, there's belief, but obviously there's been something seen in the character of the person that you are, or the way that you're going about your business, and maybe some credibility in talking to someone about what they're trying to do. And I think at the end of the day, for me, you know, making sure that you absolutely fulfil your obligation to someone once you've created it, and that to me, I think, has been a big thing.
Big jump, going from being probably a pampered racing car driver for other people's teams, where you had everything done for you. You weren't the mechanic, you weren't the driver, you weren't anyone, but you were the driver. That's all you were.
Turn up with your helmet.
Jump in the car. Sign a few autographs.
Yeah.
You know. Yep. I'm Steve Richards. Get out of my way. I don't think you would have ever done that. But how did you? Just interested in your mindset and Angela's, because I've spoken to other people who've done this, and their partners are kind of critical because you haven't got their support. So how did you manage that in both your minds? As okay, we're now back to, for want of a better term, ground zero, and we've got to work our way back.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good question, because in motor racing, you all the drivers that compete at that level have
prima donnas.
Well, not prima donnas, but they're very confident in their ability, and personality-wise, everyone's a bit different. And for some people, there's absolutely no question that having to take a step back for that, and then become the guy that drives the truck or the car to tow the trailer and the race car, but then's also in the workshop getting his hands dirty, working and preparing on the car. That wouldn't float with some people. There's no question about that. But look, that's a personal choice, and that's one that we've always been hands-on in the roles that we've had within some of the teams. My first professional drive was with a team, Gary Rogers Motorsport, and I was employed as a mechanic during the week to drive the cars on the weekend. So I have no problem and no issue at all, either as Angela, in taking a step back and getting our hands dirty, and it's exciting. We're starting to build something new. One part of my career had finished, and in a lot of cases, some drivers go on to become team owners in the Supercars Championship. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that that's something that I want to do, but I think building something credible on the back of what you've done in your professional career as a driver, it was something pretty exciting to do.
You'd come out of adrenaline kind of industry anyway, but when I hear of these people who've left corporate and started their own business, they often talk about the notion of feeling alive. I'm alive. Did you feel that, or you already probably felt alive because you're bloody racing around racetracks at 300 kilometres an hour?
It's hard to think back then, because things were tough. We were. It was hard getting back to working on the cars and doing all that. I hadn't done it for about 15 years. So, but I think it's just...
Is that the radiator or the carby?
Yeah. Front or rear wheel.
Oh, don't.
Yeah. No, but I think it was exciting at the same time. It was exciting to say, okay, we've done this for many years and it's been fantastic, but now let's see what we can create. As stupid as it sounds, not as a legacy for us for the future, but to still be involved. Interested in seeing the development of younger drivers and that sort of thing. I mean, I know I'm not going to drive forever, but I'm hoping that when I do stop, I've got something that's bubbling along in the background that we can introduce our partners to, and they can take on and help some other young bloke realise his dreams.
Do you feel like you've got that now? 7 years on, 8 years on?
Yeah, look, it's evolved enormously. We started very simple. We sort of grew to a 2-car customer operation. Then at one point we were running in 2 different categories, as well as doing the V8 supercar co-driving role with at first Mark Winterbottom and then Craig Lowndes, and then now we've changed categories into probably what's seen at the moment as the second tier of motor racing and a global formula with the GT3 category, and that probably doesn't mean much to most people, but that we have an association, a commercial arrangement with BMW Australia, with BP, with Laser, and all these great brands. And I think that's what we always hope to do. We hope to bring, I guess, the credibility of what we've done in motor racing and get people involved through a very different sponsorship model, and that's worked really well.
I want to talk about that. Before we do, by the way, we're talking to Steve Richards, who is a motor racing legend, 4-time Bathurst winner and plenty of other trophies in the pool room. Your dad, Jim, won Bathurst 7 times.
Yep.
I'm not a motor racing guy, so sure. I don't know who what kind of bloke Jim was, but
Yeah.
what did he impart to you that you're now using in your business?
I think probably the biggest attribute was just the way that he went about his racing. He loved it, and he's got a factory in Ringwood, and he's still today at 70 years old is still racing. And I think now he'll tell you that he didn't know any better, but over the time, he had different businesses, a couple of Bob Jane T-Mart stores and things that he did. But
Franchises, buddy, it's in your blood. Yeah. You'll have a KFC one day.
Maybe a laser plumbing electrical.
Yeah, well, there you go. Couldn't do worse than that.
Yeah, but look, I just think his attitude and, I remember him going through some tough times, a lot like I did in his professional career, and he came out the backside of those okay. So I think just from standing at the back, looking into how he and Mum went through that period was helpful. And look, earlier on, there's always the assistance from him and advice of how to get better, but never really business advice, so to speak.
Your celebrity, Steve, which I know will get you blushing, but has that helped you build your business?
There's no question that walking and going to the table with some results and some standing within the game definitely gives you a foot in the door. But then you've got to.
Have you actively used it?
No, I haven't. But it's I guess it comes as part of the landscape when you're going to meet someone. It's like, oh, Steve Richards, what have you done? What are you involved with?
Mm.
And putting together over the years, personal sponsorship things back when I was a driver, and doing proposals and presentations and talking at corporate events for our various sponsors and things. I mean, that's not unfamiliar to me. I felt quite comfortable walking in to talk to a CEO or a marketing director or a CFO.
Well, they'd love it. I worked for for 2 years at a charity called Reach. Jim Steins, the AFL footballer, and Jim had an idea he wanted to bring to life, and that's why I came along and helped him with it. But Jim would unashamedly use his celebrity to open the boardroom door, and then stand aside. But not to the point, because the CEO they wanted to meet him, right?
Yes,
so he did actively use it, and some would say, oh, that's wrong. But I mean, it's an asset.
So. Yeah, I think it's an asset, and I think when you take on this, for me, monstrous task of setting something up for yourself, you've done the hard yards in the past, and why shouldn't you use the assets that you've created?
Absolutely.
To be able to move your life forward and move your business forward.
I think it's a great exercise for any business owner to do, is go, what are the assets I have? And I mean, there's all these hard physical assets, but there's also some intangible assets like relationships, partnerships, networks that are invaluable.
Absolutely.
Maybe we should call on them more.
Yeah.
So now you've got this business, Steve Richards Motorsport, that is humming along. You're driving. You're setting up other car teams to have their drivers come and drive on the day. That's all going along beautifully. But there's another part to your business, isn't there, which is the sponsorship part.
Yes.
Which you couldn't live without, but you do it differently.
Well, I guess, as we were just discussing, tried to look at all the assets that we have as a group and a business, and naturally driving a race car quickly is pretty special, and it's an experience that we're lucky enough that we can share with other people by putting a passenger seat in. I know you came for a ride with us, Tim, a few years ago, and that was a bit of fun. And then
fun.
And then we try, we don't try, we capture that experience for the person. Now that's one thing, but then it's also about using the car and using your profile as a tool for these businesses to utilise for their assets. So being able to, I guess, offshoot and create almost we created with Laser like a share program, and Laser Plumbing Electrical at that point in time, and they still don't have a huge marketing budget. They're a plumbing and electrical services industry provider through their group, and we had to get down and dirty with the members and actively get those guys involved. So we created some share opportunities for them. So one share was a reasonably basic thing. It revolved around a couple of rides for that member to use at these ride days, and we did 5 of them a year, 2 in Victoria, 1 in South Australia, 1 in New South Wales, 1 in Queensland. So we then got the national network essentially of those businesses to be able to be actively involved, and we raced in all those states. So the opportunity then was to enable to get those guys, not those guys, more importantly, get their customers to the events that we were doing, including the ride days. And what we wanted to provide them is the opportunity where they could, the Laser Plumbing Electrical Network are very close, and they share lots of business around Australia, with different members, you know. And now some of those memberships and franchisees have got national contracts for big providers, and they utilise the network to be able to expose the web of their business to those services. So for me, it was also about getting those guys together for the day, getting their customers together, and actually learning. I mean, I know how hard it is to pick up the phone and talk to one of my commercial partners when they're really busy. You know, you're lucky to get a 2 or 3 minute conversation with them. But I know for a fact that when I'd actually get in to meet these people and meet the guys on the ground and meet the sales guys, all of a sudden making phone calls and getting a response became a whole lot easier. Mm-hmm. The whole objective was to encourage the members to get their customers to these days. Sure, use the rides, it's exciting if you want to jump in the car, but the real tangible benefit for them is to actually get their customers and clients in the car, but more importantly, come and host them for the day. Mm-hmm. Come and host them for that 2 or 3 hour window where they're going to be at the track, and they're not talking business. They're talking about their kids, and they're talking about the favourite things they like to do on the weekend. And we know from a fact that in the end has been a great way for them to continue to do business. Now picking up the phone and talking to a big customer or a small customer that has been to one of our days
makes it a lot easier.
Has made it a lot easier for them, and it's been really good for us.
I don't think enough businesses do it. That is, get out. Now, I remember going in doing the episode where we had Steve Kyle. Yeah. Sorry, Steve. And the guys from Laser went to the day at Sandown, and I think I went in a little bit cynically, thinking, "Oh, here we go, another corporate day, and a few free beers and a bit of food." But it wasn't. And in fact, from memory, I think someone did $80,000 worth of business that day, because all of a sudden there's a different energy and vibe about the place. And yeah, you might talk business, but you've had a great day, and then it's a different way. Next time you see that client or prospect, you sort of connect with them differently because you've had downtime with them.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
So that's kind of what you're bringing.
Well,
to the
we
party.
have, and you know, as much as it's, you know, we've sort of termed it relationship marketing. We think that what we bring to the table with our assets is something that the group can use in that circumstance to build their relationships with their customers and clients. We you know, yes, it is sponsorship, and there's a direct payment made for us to go racing, but it's become a lot more than that. That from then also engaging with those members and using our car and me as a tool to then
You're not really a tool, but I know what you mean.
to then an asset.
Yes.
An asset. But then, you know, be able to go and do some things with them at their local footy club, and be able to try and bring some return on their business by utilising us to generate interest. Generate interest, which gets them in the door. Support their local charity by doing that. The charity has a win because we sign a few posters, give out some merchandise, and also it reflects well on their business as well by having us involved. And we've had lots of the franchisees and their kids, they refer to our car as their car. It's their car that they sponsor, and that's what you want to hear. What we want.
That's what you want to hear. You know, sponsorship's a funny thing. I often hear business owners say, "Oh, it doesn't work." But you've got to work it.
Absolutely.
So no good just handing over a check to you and saying, you know, put a logo on your car and thank you. You've actually got to, as the person who's doing the sponsorship, you've got to go and think, how do I really kind of leverage this?
And you have to, you know, you really have to put a value against the things that you're doing. You know, we have a retail cost for the rides we do in the car. We know through, you know, current modern day media monitoring of TV. We know that we can get direct value by how many times a logo is placed and compare that to a commercial value that's used in advertising. So we build all that sort of stuff up, and the objective is, right from the word go, is to bring more value than we actually receive as an investment from that partner.
That's one way you've broken with convention and hosting these days for Laser. Are there other ways that you are doing things differently in your business?
Yeah, well, I think some of the things that we've been able to do, particularly with our different partners, is actually group them together to enable them to do business together.
Oh, I love it.
And that's
a connector.
That's been a big part of what we do. I mean, we know that Laser have utilised BP for some fuel card opportunities for their members at discounted pricing. We know that some of the Laser members have bought BMWs, and we've connected through a special pricing through our sponsorship. So BMW's winning, Laser are winning, BP are winning. We try and
this is a great idea, Steve. I think anyone listening to this, you've got clients, you've got customers, thinking about how can you connect 2, 3, a handful of customers, and then just stand back.
Well,
going to reflect pretty good on your business.
Everyone wants to do business, and by having a I guess me as a facilitator to direct people to the right areas. It's not for me to deal with the business that's being done. It's just to put them together and have a connection that they'll go in and negotiate whatever deals they can. But with me in the middle, I'm sure the deals that they're negotiating are better than what they would have been had they just walked up from the coalface. And that's I guess that's what we're trying to do at all different levels, whether it's the corporate partner themselves, whether it's their customers or clients. We're trying to give them as much value to do business and share the product that we're providing as possible.
Do you actively have days for all your sponsors where you bring the senior people?
We
together.
We haven't, but we've done them. We've done.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do it. The connection
we do it anyway.
We do it anyway. But yeah, for sure. In the future, when we're bringing in new partners, then that would be a great opportunity to get people together.
You're out there pitching like we all are for business. Is any particular little tip or secret sauce? The Colonel's secret sauce. See what I did there?
the 11 herbs and spices.
That's it.
I think being genuine to me being the genuine. I'm not a salesperson. I just really try and walk in and show who I am. Marketing is about in some cases about hard selling. I've never really done that. I've tried
bad marketing is.
Yeah, I've always tried to go in there with genuine. Not asking for $1, but offering investment. For me, it's about showcasing. Here's what I can do for you, and here's how and here are the things. Going in with a plan, going into those meetings with a plan, not coming in and just going, hey, we've got this really cool race car, and we get lots of television, and I'm Stephen Richards, and I've won this and done that and been that.
Not yours.
Hey, well, will you jump on board? It's not about that. I'd like to go in and say, okay, we've got a strategy here, and this is what we do. Here's a proof of what we do, because here's some video. We yearly update our videos to be able to show actually how it functions. Because as you know, Tim, in business, it's hard to conceptualize to someone what you do and how you do it. But being able to provide all of this content, YouTube videos, all of that sort of stuff, that enables to go and say, hey, we've done it. We're not talking about doing this. We have done it, and here it is, and this is the way we go about doing it.
You make a great point there. I, having grown up in an advertising agency where I'm the whole time presenting concepts to clients for TV ads or radio ads, billboards, whatever it is, I too had the penny dropped for me once, which was it's very hard to conceive it's very hard to conceptualise an idea, particularly for a client who hasn't necessarily been brought up in the world of ideas, right?
Yeah.
And so I found greater success when I could make tangible. A TV ad became a storyboard.
Yes.
Or we might even cut a little short video and say we're talking about this kind of thing and this kind of vibe and all that type of stuff. And I think the harder we work to bring to make tangible ideas, the better.
And I think that's you can. I always learnt too from even my driving days that sure you could be the guy that turned up every weekend, did your racing, then went home, went to the team and did a debrief and then went water skiing or off on your mountain bike or went and trained. Or you could be the guy that went home and thought, actually, how can I utilise this space better? How can I do some things that are going to bring value to me as a person and for my personal sponsorship stuff? And that's what I started to do. I started to create these things and do these things because it's a competitive game and you've got to have a point of difference. How many guys when you're at the advertising agency walked in and said, hey, we can do this if you can give us this?
Mm-hmm.
there would have been hundreds, and it's no different to sponsorship in sport, motorsport, whatever it is. Big companies receive hundreds of different opportunities, and it's about standing out a bit, but actually being able to have the backing to say, well, we've done this and we can create this value, and here's the market value of these particular things that we're offering.
And that's part of your point of difference, is to actually have done that legwork, if you like, up front.
Yes.
I mean, I know business owners are getting, oh, gee, point of difference. Oh, everyone's the same. You know, if I'm a vet, there's lots of vets and they're all the same, and you know, we offer better service. So I don't know about that, but yeah, the idea of actually working hard and pulling all that together up front, and using those assets on an ongoing basis. As I ask this next question, Steve, I have a Formula One pit crew in mind, because I've always wondered what we can learn from them. But I'm sure the world you live in is not so far removed. What can we learn from an industry like yours, where you are when racing, you're avoiding death, right? Yeah. I mean, that sounds dramatic.
We don't quite look at it like that.
I know you don't. I have no doubt, because I'm sure all the hard work is done up front.
Yep.
What have you applied in your business life in that regard to, you know, making sure that all the boxes are ticked? Because you must work down to very micro detail.
Yeah, look, I've said this in the past, that our business is different only in that our bottom line is a stopwatch and not a dollar value. So everything that we do revolves around how quickly we can get to the start-finish line as fast as possible to get the checkered flag, whatever the case may be. So operationally, everything that that I've grown up with is about how do you minimise time? How do you become more efficient? There's 26 blokes out there, 26 cars out there with 26 drivers, or 36, or whatever the number is, but there's a team of 40 people behind that one guy or two guys. There's thousands of parts in the car that need to be manufactured, designed, engineered, quality controlled, and it's all about a stopwatch. You know, it's all about how you can get from point A to point B the fastest. And any little time losses during the weekend, whether it's your pit stop's a bit slower, whether it's you have a small mechanical problem with the car, there are time loss that's affected by your performance, because all of a sudden you're not thinking about how to make the car go faster, or how you can be better, or how you can manage things more efficiently. You're then on the back burner trying to fix something. So probably for me, that's how I've thought about things my whole life. It's about how can I make something more efficient, more efficient. How can I stop the dead wood? You know, how can I?
So tell me, just explain that process. Paint a picture. Give us an example, if you like, because you know, again, look at a lot of businesses, and there is a lot of dead wood. Yep. There is a lot of inefficient ways of doing things, and the world has changed so much, and you know, the internet alone has opened up so many ways for us to be efficient, whether it be through software or knowledge or whatever it is. Do you literally spend each day looking around going, how do I be more efficient?
Well, it's probably more that I keep my eyes and my ears open. You know, there's ways. Of course, there's the things that I know within the motor racing industry to be able to make things work better, or suppliers that I can rely on to get things done quickly, or you know, things like that. But then in terms of, you know, how do I manage my small business? And I've got to say this, that the laser plumbing and electrical guys, they're at the cutting edge in terms of their software and management systems that they provide, excuse me, for their members. And, excuse me.
Have a drink. Steve Richards is drinking some vodka out of a coffee mug.
and I've found lots of their tools very useful, whether it's cloud-based accounting software, whether it's workplace OH&S stuff that
great. So you're learning from your sponsors.
Oh, absolutely,
love that.
Absolutely, and I love it. You know, I go to some of their member seminars when they're introducing some of this new stuff, and when I'm sitting there, as well as I'm there just to chat to the members, I'm also sitting there going, how can I apply? How can I apply this? In what circumstance can I use this to be more effective with what I've done? So, you know, as much as, you know, I owe a lot to those, Steve and the guys at Laser and girls at Laser helping
Do you reckon Steve will
streamline
give
my
me some
business.
dough for this episode? So I reckon he's had some pretty good exposure.
Yeah, we're spoken a lot about laser cutting electrical, haven't we?
Well, and rightly so. Rightly so. I will be putting a link in the show notes back to the episode I did with
Yes.
laser because it's worth listening to. Put some context to what we're talking about. I don't want to get morbid, but I am because again, I think there's a lesson here. I mean, you dance with death, and I know you don't think like that. Have you come very close to looking death in the
I've
eye?
had not death, no, but I've had probably 3 what I would call serious accidents in my career.
Okay, so again, from a business point of view, this could be bankruptcy.
Yeah,
okay?
that's right. Yeah,
How do you mentally come back and gain the confidence to do it all again?
well, you don't tend, in a lot of cases, 2 of those 3 accidents were mechanically related, so they were the cause.
I don't care what they were.
Yeah, but I think
accidents.
as a driver, you have confidence to go, hey, I didn't make a mistake. It wasn't me. It was something else. The one that I didn't, and that was probably being a bit young and silly. That was 21 years ago, and I was racing a guy, and this is sort of pretty relevant, to be honest, to road rage. I was racing a guy, pushed me off the road. I got angry, and I tried to race him down the grass, and that didn't work. And I turned hard left and hit the Armco at about 150 kilometres an hour sideways.
This is on a racetrack, I hope, not
on
the road.
On a racetrack. And you know, the lesson there was, you know, you need to be composed. You don't want to get in that situation where emotion takes over common sense.
So for you, those accidents were, well, there's one where you were just being a dickhead.
Yep.
Yeah. The other 2 were mechanical.
Yep.
Okay, so easy to come back from mechanical, hothead, 21-year-old, you kind of can, but since then...
No, look, and you know, I think the cars are very safe, and we're driving, and it's probably a bit of a misconception that racing cars is you're on the edge of out of control at every lap. I mean, there's a fair communication between driving as fast as you can to driving over the edge where the car actually then goes slower, and then having an accident because you're driving over the edge. So I think that you know, in most cases, if you've got a good track and a good car and nothing mechanically goes wrong, yeah, sure, look, sometimes, probably nowadays more so, I think when I'm driving around, shit, we're going very fast here.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, and then you've instantly just got to wipe that out of your mind. But look, I don't. I know that the teams that I drive with, and our team and the people that we employ are of the highest standards, and I never have any question mark when I get in the car.
I imagine the type of business you're in, you're the business owner, so you pulled from pillar to post. You have a lot of sponsors who I'm guessing want a bit of you on an ongoing basis. What do you do in your downtime? How do you manage your mental well-being?
Well, I have two teenage kids, and they take up a bit of time. And my wife and I said a while ago that, you know, while they're under 18, and we've got a bit of control over them. We'll try and give them their passions. You know, the reward for their hard work at school and that sort of stuff. So time really outside of what we do is that with the kids. But just, you know, day to day is just managing a business. Like there is no downtime. If there's downtime, there's something's wrong. You know, and there's always something to look at. There's always a way to do something a little bit better, whether it's managing our hot lap customer ride day programs, whether it's looking at different events to do for BP or BMW or appearances for engagements and things like that. You know, the hardest thing I find for companies nowadays is to create new opportunities. So I think in some ways it's as much my role to help the companies that I work with create the opportunities to use for their customers.
What do you mean by that? The hardest thing is to create new opportunities.
Well, I think marketing directors and marketing people are so busy nowadays. Business is becoming more efficient. They don't get the space that they once used to be able to look at things actively. So I feel it's my role to be able to offer different scenarios that they can use what we have to offer as a value add, and whether it's connecting, you know, one of our other corporate partners to them to do something together, or whether it's creating a different format. I mean, as an example, we recently had the Bathurst 12 Hour, and we created almost a hub inside the pit area to bring our corporate partners and their customers closer to the action. So they were standing in amongst the team, walking around them within a controlled space environment, and that's something you can't. It's very hard to buy that sort of experience. So doing things like that with what the assets that we can control. That's
I love your thought about business owners not getting enough time to just think.
Yep.
Really, that's what it is.
Yep, absolutely.
Think and have the courage to have an idea and go and share it with others and implement it. Yeah, love that. And your point around that thing you did in pits is like that's behind the scenes. Behind the scenes works so well.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it be for social media or for your sponsorship or whatever it is. But people, it's one thing to see you in a car racing around the track. There's another thing. I mean, when I went to that race day, I loved just sort of standing back and going, oh, that's how it works. And they're filling up the car with petrol, which you would think is very boring. To me, I go, that's pretty exciting. I'm easily pleased.
So
Steve, mate, I've loved chatting to you. I think there's a lot we can learn from a racing car driver, and clearly now a small business owner.
Yep.
Or maybe a medium. Is it a medium business now?
Maybe medium.
Good on you, mate.
It's getting there.
Well done on everything.
Thanks, Tim, mate.
People can find you at?
On Facebook, Steve Richards athlete page, or BMW Team SRM.
Okay. And what if there was a potential sponsor listening? I only take 20% of any introductions, but and again, they can just find you through there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Or they can hit me up.
Yep.
Steve Richards, thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Tim.
That was great.
Excellent.
Loved it.
Thanks.
We covered some good ground. Kyle will. It's Kyle, isn't it?
Steve Kyle.
Kyle will. Take us both out to a really nice lunch.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, remember us.
Oh, I love it. There's my copy of my book.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's great.
Nice. Oh, that's
got
nice.
Some posters. Kids, mate.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a few there. And I don't know, if, mate, if you can use any posters or anything for mates or.
I've got one mate who might be really happy, but only if that's all right.
Yeah, no worries.
Absolutely.
There's 11 there, you can throw them in the bin.
Thank you for the hot lap too.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do. It's obviously the biggest prize of all the prizes that I've got, but gee, it's going. I've called it Timbo's Monster Prize Draw, and it's going to be weekly. And I put an email out yesterday to my list, and I'm just being inundated with. Because what I've asked people to do is say an idea that they've learned from the show and what it's done for their business, how they've implemented what's not. So it's actually, I've been inundated, which is kind of nice.
Oh, good stuff.
I've got everything from 6 packs of 2-minute noodles, because I want to be the 2-minute noodle guy the other week, through to a hot lap. So
fantastic.
I just got to figure out how I give that one away, because it might be the ultimate end of year or something.
Yeah. But you can encourage them to use it for one of their charities, or that's always great.
Yes, great idea.
Works well. Most people are looking for something to, it's what they'll offer you for it, but it's also then what they'll gain back for someone. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, buddy. Well, thank you.
Pleasure, mate.
Yeah, great. You're good to go. I hope you got other business to do in the city.
Yeah, I have actually. I'm just going over. We again, as part of the thing that we do with our sponsorship, we've got 4 seats at Medallion Club, so we offer to our members who take a certain level of share.
Yeah.
Hit at Medallion Club and Eddie and MCG, and they. We need. Yeah, I need to
get a photo.
I need to get one too, mate.
Get a photo.
Send it to me. You come over.
Yeah. See you guys.